Orgasms of the gods. Is genetic engineering the creation source of humanity? Is that how we Homo sapiens were created? And does that explain a lot of the stories in ancient texts and these different creatures, the Elohim, the Anunnaki, the Nephilim, breeding with humans? Are these direct accounts of interbreeding and genetic engineering, hybridization? Well, my original article titled Orgasms of the Gods that was published on Hypnoathletics on March 3rd of 2014 was brought back to the forefront of my mind again recently, listening to the likes of Billy Carson online, mostly through his YouTube videos, and finding out about the work he's doing by translating and reading the translations of ancient texts, specifically from Sumeria, like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Tablets of Destiny and things like that. It reminded me of the article, and it was a short blog, not a lot of words, not a lot of text, but something about it had me really compelled to document what I was thinking. And now I've already crushed through so many new books lately relating to the subject, and some in some peripheral subjects. But now, again, I'm reading Eric von Daniken's War of the Gods, and this is his latest book, I believe. I could be wrong. This one is 2020. And I was just looking in here, and I read something that I had come across in my research to do some further investigation into the Orgasms of the Gods blog post that I had written. And when I did that, I had found some terms that gave me some more insight into what I was looking for. And so, to start with, I was looking at in the original article or blog that I wrote, Orgasms of the Gods, back in 2014. It was because I was looking at the book of Genesis. And I was looking at the book of Genesis because of a book called Jesus, Last of the Pharaohs by Ralph Ellis that was published in 1998. And when I was looking in there, he has a sort of a linguistic investigative technique that he does. And he shows how a lot of the words that come later have come from the ancient Egyptian, and now we know that the ancient Egyptians also found a lot of their research and material that came from older texts and cultures. So as I was looking at the book of Genesis, a couple of things came to mind. One, I couldn't help but just by saying the word Genesis, that it contained the word Isis. So my mind is primed to think about Egyptian gods and goddesses, and the story of Isis and Osiris and Horus is a primary story in the Egyptian mythology. And it may be, I know, if I recall correctly, but Ralph Ellis may have at some point in time compared this to some comparisons he made to the Holy Trinity, right? So that, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost in Christianity and Catholicism could be, Osiris, Horus, and maybe Isis is the Holy Ghost. But there's all these trinities, right? And they show up again and again throughout history. But the thing to know is that Isis is a Greek name for this goddess, and so is Osiris. And their Egyptian names are different. I just recently learned that the thing that's called the Rosetta Stone, when that was discovered, there were 3 languages on there. It was Egyptian hieroglyphs, something called Demotic script, Demotic, and Greek. And the person who discovered this saw that they were the exact same thing, that these 3 different languages were telling the same story. They were transmitting the same information in these 3 different languages. And because he was able to read the Greek, he was able to then use that to translate the Demotic and the Egyptian. And so it was a key to unlocking the Egyptian language that had never been seen before. And so with that in mind, the Egyptian language being unlocked, and knowing now, I'm looking at the work of Ralph Ellis and seeing that the Greek names for these Egyptian gods and goddesses were just that. They're Greek names, not the original Egyptian. And so when I'm looking at the book of Genesis, and I'm seeing that this could be said as 2 words, the gene of Isis, it just sounded like that to me. Genesis, gene Isis, gene of Isis. And then I also know some things from speaking Spanish and Brazilian Portuguese, that the nouns come before the adjectives. So for example, to say black cat, in Spanish or Portuguese, you would say gato negro, cat black. And so looking at Genesis, and I looked at her, what I recalled from Ralph Ellis's Jesus Last of the Pharaohs, that her name could be Astra. And also I've seen some other, lately now, more recently, seen some other examples of her name being Aster and things like that, or Aset, right? But I thought it was Astra. And so when I looked at it as gene Astra, or the gene of Astra, and then thinking about how the noun sometimes can go before the adjective and vice versa, right? Just depends on what language. I decided to switch Astra in front of gene, and I came up with Astra's gene. And it didn't take long for me to realize, because I had also known that some other renditions of Isis, Astra, was also earlier Ishtar, which sounds similar, but also in Europe she was known as Esther. And then some other things, her name is related to East Star and Easter, right? The holiday Easter. And there are several words in other language, again Spanish, which like Easter is, East is este, and West is oeste, and then there's words that are related to that, like oyster, and an oyster has a star in it, a pearl, which can be look like a star, right? So there's all these things related to that. And so Esther and Astra's gene, or Esther's gene, it sounded immediately to me, and especially since Isis, Esther, Astra, is a female goddess, I got estrogen from that. Now, that wouldn't have been sufficient enough, except, and I should grab it right now, but I had also recently seen the logo for an appliance company called Oster. And if you'll bear with me for a moment, I'll get my other device so I can show that and continue. And to show just exactly what I found. So I had seen this appliance company and it seemed that, oh wow, this thing wasn't even really charging that well. So I guess I gotta get this to you quickly. But I had seen this logo for this appliance company and it caused me to think, that's very interesting. And just chasing these linguistic similarities, these cognates, these words that sound similar, like a cognate would be like the German word verboten, kind of sounds like forbidden, words that sound similar and mean the similar thing. So I had recently seen this logo for this appliance company. And as you can see, it's Oster or Oster. And if you haven't already got it, like I said, oyster, right? And Easter and Esther and Astra and Ishtar, East Star. And so right away, for some reason, it became immediately apparent that this was it. Test Oster Om. Now, how does this relate to the genetic engineering of humans? Well, it's very interesting that in both the male and female sex hormones that makes us male and female, estrogen and testosterone, there are words that can arguably be said to be related to stars, which are also in the names of ancient deities, which the research that I've been finding out, especially from people like Billy Carson, and now reading more of the work of Eric von Daniken, his War of the Gods and The Gods Never Left Us, originally Chariots of the Gods, and books from William Bramley, The Gods of Eden, that we have been genetically engineered. And following that line of thinking, and that the gods, their names come from earlier deities, like Ishtar is from Babylon, Inanna, that these names are from these gods that created us. It's interesting that if you follow the line that they genetically engineered us, that even to this very day in the medical language that we use in English language even, contains the names of the gods and goddesses that created us. It could be said, it could be connected to that Ishtar, Ereshkigal, that one of these beings decided to carry the human embryo in their womb because other attempts at genetic engineering weren't working. So one of these extraterrestrials, these aliens, had to take that final step, had to volunteer to do that, and that was the creation of us. So again, Ishtar, Astra, Esther, Estra's gene, Esther's gene, estrogen, and these words are related to east stars, right? And Oster literally, actually means east star. And I did a little bit of further research into some of the stars that rise in the east. But as I was looking up today is the 11th of June, and it's 2:40 in the morning on June 11th, 2024. And on June 5th of 2024, I was looking further into the word Oster, and I found some different things from Gothic. It's Ostan, means the direction of the rising sun, which is east, and the sun is a star. The German Oster means Easter, is what I found, literally means Easter. Austria is Osterreich. Osterici, which comes from Osterici, means the Osterici, which means the Eastern realm, because Austria is to the east of Germany. Latin is Auster, Auster. I got Ishtar Inanna. Also, Venus is in the eastern sky, which I then did some more research and found out some more of that later. So just a little while ago, I looked at it some more. Why? Here it says, I found something that Ishtar is a sister of Eresh Kigal. Shape-shifting, time travel, reincarnation. But the thing is that what prompted me to look at this again just now, and I also have a song called Horus Rising, which was an improvised track that Donald Dias and I did back in 2013, when I was also doing a lot of this research, and my brain was really heavily influenced by this one book called Dark Mission, The Secret History of NASA. Maybe the authors will come to me in a moment, but that's the name of the book. And I came up with this when we improvised this song, which I'll find a link and put it here. But and the lyrics are just mind-blowing to me for the stuff that I'm uncovering now and what came out of my mind because of this. But I looked at this stuff again because I'm reading this book, War of the Gods, and I got to page 139. And on page 139, Eric von Daniken writes that in Syria, Austria alone, and in Styria, Austria alone, around 800 so-called Erdstall, literally earth stables, have been investigated. In his book, Geheimnisvolles Österreich, Mysterious Austria, my colleague Reinhard Habeck, one of the researchers whose statements can be relied upon, explains the term. Even the word stall, literally stable, seems strange. Anyway, it's really not that. It's just that I saw the word Österreich, when he was talking about, and my German pronunciation is not that good, Geheimnisvolles Österreich. Mysterious Austria, right? That's the thing. I saw that again. I said, the coincidences are just too much, right? Because remember, I had found that Österreich comes from Osterici, means the region of the east, because Austria is east of Germany, right? And so then I just looked up again a little while ago, just to see. I asked Google what popular stars are known to be in the east. And of course, Sirius came up, Venus. Venus is found in the constellation of Taurus, and then we got Orion. Sirius is also the dog star, which is cool because in my song Horus Rising, I talk about the dog star. And I said something like, dog star, let it sink its canine major into the of the intruder. But anyway, don't let me. I won't allow myself to get distracted. But we have these stars in the east: Betelgeuse, Rigel, which are in a lion. We got Regulus, which is a 4-star system that appears as one point of light in the sky, which is part of something called the Spring Triangle. Spring, also related to Isis, and Esther, Ishtar, all of those things. The spring. And so it just became clear to me. And then also how some of the claims from researchers talk about that these extraterrestrials come from these stars, like in the constellations of Orion and from Sirius and things like that. So all these connections are coming together, and I really feel like there's some really interesting things that are going to continue to come as I dig deeper into this research. But that's where, all these years ago, I'm starting to find these researchers doing some great work and I'm finally paying more attention to the stuff that I've been looking at. And this Orgasms of the Gods and the evidence that we really are the children of the gods, that we so-called gods, they're extraterrestrials that have masqueraded as gods, that allowed themselves to be looked upon as gods for various different reasons. But we have so much evidence pointing to, think about that. Is that really that much of a coincidence that a female hormone, estrogen, Ostra's gene, Esther's gene, Ishtar's gene, right? Think about that. Esther, Estar, and then in the male hormone, testosterone, and then I showed that picture of Oster, and it is an O with a star in it. It's right there. It's just hidden in plain sight. We just have to be looking a little bit. So that's a little bit more about Orgasms of the Gods, and I'm just following up on some more just linguistic clues to the origins of our existence as mankind. Like, where did we come from, right? And these are the things that are coming to light, and it's fascinating, it's fun, it's interesting, and I'm glad to, for so many years, have been part of this, and now to start seeing some of the things, the intuitions I was having, and the clues that I was following to be supported and vindicated by these other researchers' work. And there's a lot more. There's some stuff about Area 51 that I had written about, and about how that can literally, when you analyze it through using numerology, can be shown that it's more than just supposedly a base where they're hiding alien craft or alien bodies and things like that, but that it literally may be a psychological operations hub, a psyops hub, because, as I'll go over in another video, Area 51 literally translates through, in numerology, to a gray area. And we know that gray area is a term that's used when something is, we don't know if it's black or white. It's this gray area that we're unsure, it's uncertainty. So is that Area 51 really just a place to fill us with uncertainty? I don't know, but it's another interesting, fascinating, and fun thing to investigate. So I'm still on the trail here with the Orgasms of the Gods, specifically with Isis and Osiris, and the Horus rising, horizon, and there's just so many things to look into this, and the east stars, and there's something to investigate in that part of the sky as well, and maybe that's where our true ancestry lies.